He said the average price of a bungalow in Toronto is $846,000. Is that what he said?
The average
single
detached.
family detached.
Detached, okay. So that's sort of an irrelevant number because people who buy those homes have lots of money. With the relevant status, what is the average home, right? And today, the issue is that we're not building single family homes in the city of Toronto, we're building condominiums. And why are we doing that? Because they're affordable. So the average home price in Toronto, if you factor in condos, is, I think it's about $350, isn't it? Or
No,
$465.
Okay, $465. And what does that relate to in terms of the multiple of average Toronto income?
It's high.
But it's not what he's suggesting.
9 times
Sure.
in Vancouver, and it's about 6 or 7 times in Toronto.
Right, but it's not $800 and something thousand. So that's just
Well,
a skewed
and the
number
reason
right
it's
there.
high is because interest rates are so low. I mean, historically, the average was 5 times, but historically, the average mortgage rate was certainly not 4%. So people can afford more because the finance costs are much lower.
You own a home to live in. You know, I've presented offers and they say, I've been here 25 years and you think I can only double my money? It's like, look what's happening out there. And I say, but you've lived there for 25 years. You can't just use it as an investment, the house you're going to live in with your family.
Owning a home versus renting is a lifestyle decision as well as a financial decision. And obviously, the more you can put down, the safer you are, and therefore the nicer the house that you can afford. And I don't think that people should stretch themselves to the limit, and I don't think the banks are going to let them.
You know, how many individuals have invested in how many different buildings? We don't know. If someone buys 3 or 4 units in our building and 3 or 4 units in Brad's building, it doesn't matter if we have them assigned personally. They won't be able to recover if they own too many.
The banker.
No, the developers know this. Let me put this in this way. If you're going to, you know, it's routine now. A building went up for sale on Grenville Street, 400 units, and in a weekend they sold all 400 units. Now those aren't people. Okay, those are not real people buying those units.
They're investors.
Of course, and they're not investors from Toronto. Okay, they're foreign investors, and they're parking money, and that's a bad thing. And that's happening a lot in the city. That is the one thing that we have happening in Toronto. It's a very positive thing because they're showing confidence in our economy and in our city, but it's a negative thing because they're almost buying options. You know, they're not even flying here to look at what they're buying.
Right.
They're sending money to a relative, and the relative is signing a contract. And if they're offshore people, they have to put more money down.
Yeah, like 35%.
Now there is another phenomena in the city. 10 years ago, we saw movement of major companies, movement of their headquarters from downtown to the suburbs, the major banks and so far. Recently, we see the movement back. And why they're moving back? Because of their employees. They want to live in downtown because they have affordable rent and they're moving downtown. So we see now very high occupancy levels for office building. We see build out of new office buildings. And the occupancy going, I think it's a historic low vacancies in the office sector. And that's because we recognize that the youngsters and the young people want, and the employee that can fill these positions are in downtown, so they're following the movement.
20 years ago, 30 years ago, condos were, well, if you couldn't afford a real house, then you bought a condo if you were really old or really poor or something like that. Now it's an option. Now I just don't want the house lifestyle. Right. I want the condo lifestyle, and I don't expect to cash in. I will go sideways. Sometimes I might even go up.
Okay.
And that, I don't think the marketplace in Toronto, though, now is a little too heavily focused on the investor as opposed to the resident.
think having a majority government is good for our country. We got a lot of immigration coming. I don't see the prices turning down. I see us being stable with a moderate increase. I don't see, I'm not as familiar with a lot of the condo market downtown, so I don't have an opinion on that. But north of Bloor, we have big demand in the condo market and the housing market, where we're not seeing as much activity as in maybe that $4 million level. But houses that are 2.5, 3 million and under, definitely there's movement. And if you want something in the very demand areas, you have to bid up to get it.
I think the long term for the city is very bright, especially if interest rates stay low for over the longer term. Not as necessarily as low as they are right now, but generally low. I think if they stay in and around the same range that they're in right now, I think it's still smooth sailing. That meaning that there's not going to be a collapse of the market. I think there'll be a stabilization or very minor price increase right now. But again, I think for me, it's all about the interest rates. Interest rates stay low. We're good in the short term.